This is the Soul's Journey podcast with Kat and Mel, where we bring you the latest energy updates, spiritual guidance and support for your spiritual awakening journey.
That's what the Pluto in Aquarius is about, is when people are rising to power. And power really is just being yourself, because you are a soul. We all have a soul that came here for a reason. And in just being yourself, you are being powerful. So we just need to be ourselves and support each other, really.
Yeah, and the message that I keep getting loud and clear is about remembering who you are, because, you know, we've always been taught to believe that we are, you know, human beings who come here and we have these different experiences. We're not. We are. This is created by us as a soul being. And we create every aspect of reality. We create collectively and we create individually. And I know if my energy is a bit low, that affects the kind of people I bump into when I go out. It affects the mood those people are in. It affects whether, you know, the shop I'm going to is open or shut, or there's a problem, or I can get a parking space. When my energy is high, there's no traffic. I go through the green lights. I get a parking space. Everybody smiles at me that day. And I think, oh, everyone's happy. What a nice day. I'm creating that. That's not a lucky day or a good day or a bad day. I'm creating that because this is the power we have as soul beings creating our reality. Welcome to this episode where we will be providing you with an energy update for the month of March. And we'll be taking a look astrologically at what's happening and how that might show up in your life.
This month of March is really interesting, and if anyone is listening to any astrologers, they will know, because all astrologers are talking about it, because it's a pivotal month in a pivotal year, and it's one that is the most intense and the most transformational. Now, of course, it depends on your personal astrology as to how it impacts you, or if it will be a little bit less intense for you or not. But generally, something is happening for everyone. And we have Venus is going retrograde, Mercury is going retrograde. They're all in Aries, by the way. We have eclipses in Aries, these are the last eclipses in Aries for the next, I believe, 9 years or so. They started in, I think, April 2022. And now they are wrapping up. And then Neptune is also entering Aries for the next 14 years, although in 2025 he'll be in and out of Aries and kind of moving about and going retrograde to other signs. But then I think by January 2026 he'll be full-time in Aries for 14 years. So it is a big deal, because, you know, everything is happening in Aries, but also that Neptune, because it's something that will happen only once in your lifetime. So Neptune hasn't been in Aries for the last 164 years.
Wow.
So now having Neptune in Aries is once in a lifetime occurrence. And it's really interesting. I have, so Neptune, for instance, let's just talk about Neptune. I think it's because it is very relevant to you and I, Mel, and everyone who's listening to this podcast, because we would imagine whoever's listening to it is interested in spirituality in some way or form. And Neptune is definitely a planet that covers these subjects. Neptune is a very spiritual planet. It rules Pisces sign. And so Neptune being in Aries is there. So I've written down a few sort of keywords that would describe this energy. And it's about idealism of independence and individualism, courage and things like that. So it's kind of, it brings a spiritual warrior image.
Yeah,
and it's very good for those who are within the spiritual space. It is when we will be boldly, Aries, following our intuition, Neptune. We'll have faith in our ability to lead, innovate, start anew. And it will be, because it's an energy of revolution, and it's Neptune spiritual, it can be spiritual revolution. So we might start rejecting dogma of any sort. So it's pretty much perfect, right? I think for any sort of spiritual subject, spiritual awakening, and people really becoming, because Aries is all about me. Who am I? What I'm doing, me as an individual, and then Neptune brings it that spiritual energy and flavor, I guess. So and like I say, it will stay there for next 14 years. And
Wow.
so yeah,
And
so
that really ties in with what I've been experiencing and what I've been hearing over the last few years about this sort of the rise of the light worker and the spiritual workers who are here to bring the truth and to bring light into the planet. And to do that at a time where astrologically we are supported in that makes perfect sense. And of course, we've entered the age of Aquarius as well. It's all tying in beautifully with how we're all seeing and feeling and experiencing the world at the moment, with so many more people every day going through a quite intense spiritual awakening. So it's really interesting to
yeah,
hear how it all lines up and how this awakening is being supported by the energies around us, by the planets around us, by their position. And that's what's providing us with this perfect stage for this all to be played out
yeah,
on. So yeah, it's really interesting.
exactly. And I was thinking how auspicious that we decided to start our podcast now. And
Yeah.
for those who are listening, we definitely didn't plan it around
Nope.
astrological events. It just so happened that this time was perfect for both of us. And we even planned it. What was it, December? We planned it December. I think it was in December to start it in March. Today, so today is the 10th of March. So and it's just really, I just thought that's really interesting. And we both, on our personal astrological charts, those signs, zodiac signs, are very personal to us because you're an Aries sun, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an Aries moon. And the eclipses, which is really interesting for me, are happening right on my moon at exact degree, because it's 9 degrees Aries. That's the eclipse on the 29th of March. The one on the 14th, which will be in Virgo, is, where was it, 23 degrees Virgo. So I don't know if you know your degrees, whether they are right on your sun. Sorry, Virgo is your ascendant.
Yes, my rising sign. I don't. I've got my birth chart. I could have a look at that and see, because it is quite useful to look at your own birth chart when this kind of thing happens, and how this might be impacting you. And what and so for people that and that hear people talking about these eclipses, these solar and lunar eclipses, what what is that causing? What kind of energy does that bring? Is it a massive reset? Is it a massive rebirth? And what kind of energy can you get from the lunar eclipse compared to the solar eclipse? Are they completely different?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much in detail. However, they always mean changes, so transformations. Eclipses mean transformations. And I guess solar eclipse is a little bit more action driven because it's a solar eclipse. Lunar would be a little bit more internal. So maybe, people would go through transformations internally, maybe a little bit more than during a solar eclipse. But as usual, it depends on the placement in your chart. If it's in a house that's very personal, then it will be more personal. But it's generally a transformation. It's a transformative time. And I was trying to go back in memory. I don't know if you'll recall, but I'm pretty sure April 22 is when we started our first podcast, around that time.
That sounds about right.
I
Hmm.
think I think it was around that time. So, and now we're wrapping up, in a sense. We're starting it new, right? Version 2.0, with a different, different life experiences and a little bit of experience of the one that we've done before.
Hmm.
And it's like a really fresh start. And for example, if you're a Cancer rising, I'm a Cancer rising, so I can give you an example this way. It all happens, Aries is in my 10th house, which is the house of public, amongst other things. So it's like career, but public life status, things that you do in the eye of the public, basically. Uh, and so here we are recording a public, right, an episode for a podcast that is going to go public. and it's in my career sector, and it makes aspects that particular placement is very potent for me, because also my North Node, which is a sign, or let's say a placement of destiny, is right next to my moon. So I'm really I'm kind of like watching out for this 29th of March. Although it's, by the way, it's never on the particular day. It's never on the day, right? The energy starts 2 weeks before, and then it continues up to 6 months after the eclipse. So, but around that time, the 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, I think it's the most intense.
Yeah.
So just watching your chart where it is and how that might show up for you.
Yeah, and I've got an app on my phone. I can't remember the name of it now, but it might be called Time Passages. But that gives me my birth chart and the daily chart, so I can compare the two. And the 2 weeks, I've often heard it called the eclipse corridor. For anyone that hears that phrase, what's an eclipse corridor? That's the time in between the two, because whichever one comes first, I think it's the lunar eclipse that comes first, followed by the solar, but they are usually a couple of weeks apart, because one is a new moon eclipse and one is a full moon eclipse. And the new moon turns full after about 2 weeks, about 14 days, just over usually. So we must start with the new moon eclipse, and then you've got a 2-week period as the moon waxes and becomes bigger to become the full moon eclipse. So the energies will suddenly feel quite intense. I mean, to be honest, they feel intense every day at the moment, and they have done since the end of last year, which was just awful. And the beginning of this year has felt like a massive reset and transformation. But for me personally, more so this month. January, February, I was still in hibernation mode. I was still in healing and still in introspection, which I often am in the winter anyway. And then it was almost like someone just sort of shook me awake on the 1st of March. So the energies they're intense anyway. So how they're going to feel when we're hit with this eclipse, I don't know. But yeah, hold on to your hat.
Yes, the other thing is that we had Mars retrograde, and
Yes.
it now went direct. So that might have been that energy that gave you suddenly the jolt and the motivation to be like, oh, okay, I'm up now. Because before, our motivation, our activity, action kind of energy was retrograding. So it was put down a little bit, or put back to rethink our actions. And yeah, so let's maybe just quickly also mention the Venus retrograde and Mercury, because they are all on the same degree, 9 degrees. So everything is right on my moon. Mercury retrogrades, everyone is, I think, familiar with, because everyone talks about it. So it's usually when we have things break down, like electronics, but also communication breaks down, or we are delayed in some way. But it's never supposed to be to our detriment. It's for us to rethink what we're doing or how we want to do things, right? So don't ever get too down about it, because it all has a purpose. Venus retrograde, when I was listening to one of the astrologers that I follow, and I quite like what she was saying, because Venus, amongst other things, she in general would cover the topics of value, or what we value, whether it's material in the material world, or value as our life values, our personal values. And because she's going retrograde, it's the best time to reevaluate what it is that we value in life, and what is really important to us in terms of relationships, and just, I guess, enjoying life, because Venus would cover enjoyment of life as well, pleasure and things like that, money, right? So yeah, so it will be a good time to just reevaluate what it is that how do we want to live, what are our values, so that we can then align with things that are really important to us. So then when she goes direct again, we can act on it, or it can come, or we can get inspired as to what we need to do, to get there, pretty much.
I like that. I like the reevaluating, because I think retrograde can often put people into a bit of a panic, and they think, oh, something's going to go wrong. But like you say, it's not. It's a time to look at what's perhaps not working, because we do need to review that sometimes. And if we're not creating space to review what's not working, sometimes these energies can shift and sort of make us face things. And the reevaluation and, getting rid of stuff, changing stuff, it's quite therapeutic. It's quite cathartic, really.
Yeah.
And then when it goes direct again, it's a time to say, right, now I've solved these problems, or I've got rid of stuff, or I've reevaluated. Now it's time to set my goals for what I want in this particular area of my life. So with Mercury, it would be communications and technology. What am I looking for in that area? And with Venus, relationships, the things that I hold dear to me, the things that I value. So yeah, I think using the energies around us, instead of just saying, oh, that's nice, I know what the planets are doing, but it's like, well, how is that impacting us? It gives us this opportunity of a boost of energy to help us with these things in our lives. And it's up to us whether we decide to use that energy or not.
Yeah, and if anyone is wondering how to figure out what it is that they value, I had a little bit of an issue with that when I was listening to that astrology, to that astrologist, because there can be so many things. But the good indication is what do you spend your money on, and I would also add what do you spend your energy on. In general, what you're interested in. That's where usually your values are. Right. So, for instance, I've been spending my money on a lot of courses throughout years, right? Courses, books, even setting up platforms for podcasts, or even when it comes to my time and energy, I spent it on listening to podcasts, on buying card decks at the time. So a lot of spirituality and kind of personal development is there for me. And then communication and connection as well. So through creating a podcast, collaborating, I'm connecting. I'm also on, planning to be on platforms like YouTube or TikTok. Recently, I started to be on there a little bit more as well, because that's what I value. I value connection, and I value, sharing my thoughts and things like that. So yeah, where does your energy go? Where do you spend your money? That's most likely where your values are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm probably the same with you in terms of where I spend my money and energy. Nodding along to everything you've said there, thinking, yep. Yep.
Yeah, we like to take in the knowledge and information, and so in the same way share it then, right? It's the same kind of giving and receiving, I guess, of knowledge, of experiences, sharing experiences. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, I would say, when it comes to the astrological energies for March.
And so we've got the new moon eclipse on the 14th, a couple of weeks, then the eclipse corridor, and at the end of the month, we'll have the second eclipse, the full moon eclipse.
On the 29th.
And what's the dates for the retrogrades? When is Venus and
Yes.
Mercury?
So Venus went retrograde on the 1st of March, and she will be there until 12th of April. And where is Mercury? Starts on the 14th of March and continues until the 6th of April.
Okay.
Yes. And then first lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 14th, and then the second one in Aries on the 29th.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
and then entering Aries at the end of March, I think the 30th or maybe the 29th. Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but it's at the end of March. Okay. So around the time of the eclipse.
Yeah, lots going on.
No, if you're Sun Aries, then if you are at the beginning of the Aries season, if you are born at the beginning of the Aries season, then that Neptune entering Aries will affect you mostly at the beginning of that journey. Whereas if you're a little bit later degrees, then, throughout those 14 years, it's going to be later on. But yeah, it's a very good time for all of the spiritual entrepreneurs, spiritual warriors, and anything Neptunian. Also artists of any sort, creatives. One of the astrologers, she was saying how it will be so interesting to see the babies that will be born during this time when they have Venus, Mercury in Aries, Neptune in Aries, and all of the eclipses, because it's very likely that at that time, babies born around that time it's like they could become the future Mozart, or like very artistically gifted geniuses, whatever field of art they or creativity they choose to go
Excellent. And we're
with.
still obviously in Pisces season at the moment, where, Pisces as a sign is very creative and dreamy and intuitive.
Well,
But we,
exactly. So that's
yeah,
sun, right?
yeah. At the
Yeah.
moment it is, yeah. The sun
Oh,
is
it is
in
not.
Pisces. Not for much longer. We're 10th of March today, and I think it goes into Aries around the 21st, something like that. So, yeah, we've still got a couple more weeks of Pisces season to go as well. So in terms of that's obviously what's happening astrologically. In terms of the general sort of collective energies, people watching, depending on where they are in the world, might be feeling that the world has gone a little bit mad at the moment. It does, and we've known about this. We've known this was coming. Last year and this year in particular, chaos energy. It will feel like, what is going on out there? It just feels crazy. So I've been having to do a lot of grounding myself personally over the last couple of months. I've been quite introspective. I've needed to sort of shield myself a bit, particularly as a light worker, as a spiritual person. I felt more protective over my energy this last couple of months. I've had to really move away from anything negative, even if it's just something on TV. I cannot deal with it. The low frequency stuff feels completely out of sort. It feels really uncomfortable. And I just walk away from it. I'm not watching that. I'm not dealing with it. Don't talk to me about the news. I'm not interested. I'm really protective because I work hard to maintain a high vibration. I work hard to shift these lower frequency emotions out of my field and to raise my vibration. And it doesn't take a lot for that to come down. So I've had to be really shielding myself. I don't know about you, Kat. Have you felt that the same particularly this year, really, since 2025 began?
Yeah, well, what I felt is I felt a lot more like my energy shifted or even opened up, is the best I can describe
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
to higher frequency, I guess, because there were specific days when I literally just felt it was very very tangible for me, that I felt my energy shift, and it's as if something like unlocked in me. It's really, it's difficult to explain, and for someone who hasn't experienced it, but I I could really feel it in that way. And I'm also very mindful of the lower energies, like you say, when I when they, let's say, get me, usually in the morning after I wake up. And if I'm not mindful and I don't do something about it, or I don't even have to do a lot in a sense of, cleansing or anything. I just have to become aware that when I feel some sort of way and I really don't have a reason, I just woke up, maybe I had a bad dream, but that's a dream. And in my environment, I actually have no reason to feel down. I start questioning it, and I'm almost just starting to not pay attention to that energy, because I can feel my, let's say, ability to disconnect from it, or just try and push it away. If it's obviously not working, it's not always working, but then I can do, for instance, I do a lot of angelic healing, or I do angelic Reiki now, so I might do angelic Reiki on myself, and I can, a lot more tangibly, I can feel the difference than I ever did before. I think that's the big difference for me.
Yeah.
And, even going into this podcast and me starting back up being active on TikTok. That's actually, it's really, it might seem like a small thing for some, but for me it's huge, because for the longest time I wasn't active on any social media platforms, because I just had some sort of a it's like my mind wasn't clear. It was very cloudy. One day I would be inspired to do this, then I wouldn't, then I would forget what did I even want to create. I would maybe write some ideas down, but then when it came to it, when I had time to actually record it, I just didn't feel it. And if I don't feel it, I'm not going to do it, because it would just, yeah, it just wouldn't. I just don't think it will work. It's not how I work. But since those shifts this year, I just felt so inspired and so opened up and unlocked. It's the best way I can describe it. And I suddenly feel very Aries energy of what's my individuality, what do I want to show to the world, and I feel very comfortable with it now. I think before it was also the discomfort, but now it's almost like all of these energies are pushed away, and I just feel different about things. So that's how I've been experiencing it. And one more thing that's been happening this year is that I've been meeting a lot of people, or a few people that are aligned with my interests, let's say. So currently I have a side job in a beauty salon, but the clients that I've been having are all open, or at least interested in spirituality, or at least 90% of them. And recently I even met a lady who has been working as a psychic medium for many years, and she came in as a client for whatever beauty treatment she was having, and we just started talking, and then we just could not stop talking. It's as if we found your long lost friend from long time ago, and it was, yeah, and again, it was the energy that I felt of it that was very palpable. I just feel the energy is a lot more intense and a lot clearer these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have the kind of upgrades we get from our higher self have been happening. They were happening every night for probably December, January, and most of February. Now they're every 3 or 4 days, where I just feel like my higher self and my spirit guides are slowing me down to get me to just sit, so that they can make adjustments to my energy fields. And I can feel that it's very tangible. I can feel it happening, and my ears go crazy and ringing and everything. So
Oh,
I
yes.
just feel like they're saying to me, we just need you to just, because I'm very busy, I'm Aries, always on the go, and I feel a nudge to just sit down a minute. And it's like my brain waves change, and suddenly everything's on slow motion, and I feel like, oh, I feel a bit woozy, I need to sit down. And I'll either get a download, or I'll feel like something's shifting in my energy, and then
Yeah.
I'll get back up and just carry on. And that's happening all the time.
Yeah, I've had a lot of ringing in my ears, more so in the beginning, sort of January, maybe even December, I would say. I was experiencing a lot of that. Yeah, and the other day, when I decided and I found a bit of time to meditate on something, so I had I was wondering about something in my life, and I haven't actually done it before. I haven't meditated on a particular question. I usually would pull a card, or if I do meditate, I would find a guided meditation for something, but I never just sat down and meditated on a question that I have in my head. And I felt like it's the time. I can also recognize when my guides or my spirit team is nudging me to just sit down and meditate or something. Or just talk to them. When it's coming from them, I can kind of feel it. So anyway, I sat down, and it was just so easy. Like, also something that I haven't maybe experienced in the past. Maybe because I haven't tried meditating on the question. I don't know, but it was just the connection was. I just decided to connect with my higher self, and it's like, oh, there I was.
Yeah, that's it.
It was just,
I don't think it's, don't feel bad if you've not tried it before, or think, oh, now suddenly it seems easier. You must have had an upgrade. And
yes.
and because it's the same with me, it's like all of a sudden it doesn't feel like I've got to really put a lot of effort into channeling. It just comes, and some days more than others, depending on my energy levels. But it's just like, instead of having to get into the space and really focus on it, I just think, oh, there's a message coming through. I shut my eyes, write it down, and it's there. and it's easy. But I don't think it would have been if I'd done that 12 months ago. I would have had to really concentrate or go into a guided meditation first, because that's where I was at there. Whereas now it's like literally I've walked into a different person and I've got these abilities all ready to go. And I do think we've had a major energetic upgrade. Many people might not even be aware they've had one, but if they're starting to hear things suddenly really clearly, or they're seeing things or shapes or colors and they think, well, where did that come from? I didn't have that last year. They've probably also had an upgrade without even knowing that's what was happening to them. So it's really interesting, because people who I wouldn't class as spiritual are coming to me and saying they're having experiences where, you know, they might have had a little bit before, but suddenly it's like it's spirituality on steroids, you know, it's pumped up. And you just think, how has this happened? There has been a huge shift. And I do think this year has brought these new energies in, and we've all had these little tweaks and recalibration of our energy field so that we can suddenly perceive what was already there, because it wasn't hiding, it was there, but we were on a different frequency. And now our frequency has changed. We're noticing the stuff that we couldn't see before, but that's always been there.
And also I will mention, because I think I found it very interesting, with the TikTok platform, whoever's on TikTok, you might have noticed that, Mel, that when there was the around the day when the US ban happened, right? You probably heard this. And so US wasn't on TikTok for, I don't know how many hours it was. It was like 12 hours, maybe 14, if that. I don't know. It doesn't matter how long. But all of these these small creators suddenly started popping up on the feed. And it was around one of those days when I felt really elated. I felt like, wow, you know, what is happening? And I was actually at work at the time by myself, because there was no one else. And it's literally just like, it just hit me, and it continues now, but it might look like a little thing, but to me it's so Pluto and Aquarius, because the people are coming out of the woodworks, and suddenly everyone sees all these, air quotes, normal people who are not, you know, unfiltered and just showing their just daily life that is actually, you know, without the drama, right? So all of these people that kind of came out of woodworks are very much non-drama, and some of them are so motivated to just create positive content. Even one guy, I think he actually got quite popular now, because I see him popping up quite often, and he keeps talking about, let's just, you know, create positivity, let's, you know, and he became quite popular now on there. I think he's got however many thousand followers. And that's the theme, and they're really, in a sense, fighting, right, like a spiritual warrior. They're fighting to keep it that way. So there are people who are creating videos and TikToks just so that it keeps going, even though they haven't created them before, but because they love it so much, and they know that in order to feed that algorithm, to keep feeding other people with positive stuff and normal life stuff, they have to be there to keep it alive and going. So they're just like, they're very motivated, and they often say, oh, this is my first time on the camera, but I really love this trend that's going and whatever. So I want to, you know, contribute to it so it keeps going. And I just keep seeing them popping up, and people who are watching these videos, and they are commenting, and they're also kind and just nice, which is, you know, exactly what people are. Majority people are, but they've been silenced, and maybe not silenced, but they weren't comfortable or brave enough to show themselves before, because of all the, you know, hate online and judgment and all that sort of stuff. And now it's like everyone is motivating each other, because the more people that show up, the more people are encouraged to do the same. And because of that, it's becoming a really nice place to be, as long as you obviously keep on top of it, because it can fall back to the old ways on your page with all the drama, right? But it really shows you how, you know, what energy you are attracting as well, right, on that page. Because if you just stop for too long on something that's maybe negative and, you know, drama and all that, then the algorithm will pick it up and, oh, okay, let me show you more of that. But yeah, I just found it fascinating, because that's exactly what I imagine social media to be, is where we are just a global, because it's online, you can do it from any country in the world, and we're just a global community that just talks and shares ideas and their daily life, and not, doesn't fight and, just hate on each other.
And this is the way things are going because, years and years ago, we just had the press. We didn't have social media. We didn't have it. We had newspapers. And, the industry quickly learned that newspapers sold more by having these big dramatic scandalous headlines, but also, there's other reasons why the headlines are always fear-based or division-based, trying to get you to hate someone, divide yourself against somebody else, separate yourself against somebody else. And they're always pitching person against person. And that has a knock-on effect. Whereas social media has the power of being, ordinary people.
Driven by people.
It's driven by ordinary people living ordinary lives. So you get a much more broad perspective of what's actually happening in life, but also the people that are there sort of spreading the love, spreading the light, they are light workers. They might not think they are, because they think, oh, if you're a, quote unquote light worker, you've got to be doing it as a job. You don't. A light worker is somebody that has a high vibration that encourages the same in other people. That's all that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And there are people who are awakening who aren't working in a spiritual role. They're doing whatever they're doing, they're 9 to 5, but they have had an awakening and a shift, and they're feeling more loving, and they want to spread that. They want to share it. And the more we can do that, we're not just helping ourselves to feel better as individuals, but we're affecting the collective, not just the people that see your posts, but we contribute energetically to that collective pool of collective human energy as well. So I really like to see this, and I hope people see that, yes, the dramatic posts always get lots of comments and reactions, but I mean, I'm sick of it. I just, as soon as I
You
see
don't have to be a part of it anymore. I think that's what I really love about it, is because instead of, it's not that we just choose to ignore it, or that many people just choose to ignore it and just not watch it. They're actually actively creating something opposite, because they became so encouraged by each other. Everyone's encouraging the other person, when people are coming up and they're saying, oh, this is like my very first video, but I just thought I said hi because I'm so inspired by others, and that inspires the other person, and so it keeps building up on itself, and it builds up momentum, and then and now there's a community who is dedicated to love, kindness, and positivity, so they can drown down all of the drama and negativity, and so
Yeah.
it's really inspiring to see. And that's around the time when I was like, oh wow, I love it, I'm just gonna hop on and just do what I but it's not that it just inspired me, but it in a sense, like I said, it unlocked it cleared my mind as to what I want to create. So maybe before, the different setup that was there was maybe doling down my own ideas of what I want to do, or maybe it was creating some sort of a confusion for me. But now that I saw what I'm seeing, it's like I'm suddenly clear on what I want to create. It's really interesting how that works.
Yeah, and again, this time that we're in now really lends itself to supporting that because of the energies around us, because it is a time of collective awakening, but also, and something I hear time and time again from other channels, as well as, my own feelings and perceptions, is that it is a time for the power to be returned to the people, because we have really outgrown that old model of giving certain people in authority all the power, and we've given them that power. But we can very easily take it back. And we by understanding how reality is created, that's how we take back the power. Because a lot of people say, how do we take back the power? And they look at it in a very sort of old world perspective. Well, we need to fight then, and we need to petition, and we need to do this, that, and the other. Well, yeah, all of those things have their place. But one of them, the most positive ways you can contribute to this new earth, is literally working on your own vibration and raising your vibration and spreading that love. You don't have to be an activist if that feels uncomfortable to your nature. You can just don't retreat in fear, because then that brings you down and it affects the collective. So the more we can just bring that joy into our own life and then spread that out, we are winning that sort of battle, if you like, you know.
Exactly. And it's important to understand that power, or we're starting maybe to understand more of us, that power is not always in action, it's just in being. So just by being yourself, you are powerful. That's the whole point. We've been taught to believe that we're not powerful because maybe, I don't know, we don't have the money, enough money, because money brings power, or we don't have, or we're not in authority of some sort. But that's crumbling down right now, and we are starting to realize that that's what the Pluto in Aquarius is about, is when people are rising to power. And power really is just being yourself, because you are a soul. We all have a soul that came here for a reason, and in just being yourself, you are being powerful. Because it's such a simple thing to just, like, I keep going back to it, but it's a good example. On social media, you're just there with a camera, just being yourself, and suddenly you don't even realize that people are actually inspired by you. And all of these creators are now very surprised and by the responses that they're getting. So they're suddenly realizing that they do have an effect on other people just by being themselves. And that's exactly where the power is.
Yeah.
So we just need to be ourselves and support each other, really.
Yeah, and the message that I keep getting loud and clear is about remembering who you are, because we've always been taught to believe that we are, human beings who come here and we have these different experiences. We're not. We are. This is created by us as a soul being, and we create every aspect of reality. We create collectively, and we create individually. And I know if my energy is a bit low, that affects the kind of people I bump into when I go out. It affects the mood those people are in. It affects whether, the shop I'm going to is open or shut, or there's a problem, or I can get a parking space. When my energy is high, there's no traffic. I go through the green lights. I get a parking space. Everybody smiles at me that day. And I think, oh, everyone's happy. What a nice day. I'm creating that. That's not a lucky day or a good day or a bad day. I'm creating that because this is the power we have as soul beings, creating our reality. So when we realize that that's what we're doing with every thought we have, with every word we speak, the behaviors, the energy we're pulsing out into the world is literally affecting what we are seeing and what we are receiving back. And if all of us have that knowledge, why would you ever want to be in a bad mood again? Because you think, well, I can stay in this frequency and I can have a rubbish day, which I'm creating, or I can, as the powerful creator being that I am, shift out of this frequency, very easy, get into gratitude, think of something that makes you smile, think of something you're appreciative of, boom, your energy's changed. That's as easy as it is. And then everything outside of you changes in response to your energy. And once more people realize that, they'll stop buying into all the negative press that they read, because if you believe something's going to happen because someone's told you it's going to happen, you're creating that. You are, with your thoughts. One person can't create it. They have to convince enough people something's going to happen. And it's the people with all of their combined minds that then create that thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's not to say that you'll never encounter negativity, or you'll never encounter, challenges that will come up. It's all about how you go about dealing with them, right? And whilst you're in that situation, how will you raise your energy again, raise your frequency again, right? So how will you come back to your center and, have a little bit of a breather, and then maybe look at things from a different perspective, or just choose mindfully how you're going to deal with it, rather than just being reactive, right?
Yeah.
And feeding into that energy.
I know if I try and solve a problem from an area of frustration, it takes me twice as long and I hit more blocks. When I raise my frequency, the answer that I'm looking for is right there. Because when we create a challenge for ourselves as a soul being, as the powerful being that we are, we create a challenge for ourselves to help us grow, and we create the solution at the same time. So it's already there. So you can choose to find it the slow, hard way by dropping your vibration, or you can raise your vibration up and the solution appears almost like, oh, where did that come from? Like something will pop up on the internet. There's your solution. That's what you were looking for. That solves your problem. And it's funny. It makes me laugh when that happens, because I think, wow, I could have got really stuck in this problem I could have lost half a day. trying to resolve this. But
So for
taking a
those,
point. Sorry, no, go on.
I was just going to ask, so for those who maybe are not very familiar with what it means raising your vibration at the time when you're, I don't know, down, or you're dealing with something or watching something, you just watched or heard something that's negative and it's starting to impact you, what would you, what in your, how would you explain raising your vibration?
So, yeah, first of all, be very careful what you consume, because this is food, drink, media, newspapers. What information are you consuming, and what physically are you consuming? How does it make you feel? You know, does it make you feel really awful? Because even if I eat rubbish food, that drops my vibration. So when I look after my body, that raises my vibration. When I watch something positive on TV that makes me smile, laughter raises my vibration. Spending time with my family, my loved ones, it's instant. Bringing something to mind that I'm grateful for, like I was saying, write a gratitude list. That instantly, your vibration, you know, emotions are energy, and they have a certain frequency. So if you are in the emotion of anger, judgment, you're resisting something, you're in fear, you are vibrating lower. If you can shift that up, even just into acceptance and peace, that's a much higher frequency. If you can move up to love, gratitude, then you're talking really high frequencies. I dance around the house and I sing, you know, that it instantly perks me up. It's like I make a conscious decision, right? I can sit here and be all miserable, or I can do something daft, or I can crack a joke, or, you know, run into the lounge and give my dog a cuddle. Anything like that instantly shifts you up. And once you're up there, it's just about maintaining it. And then challenges will happen. Of course they will. We set them up for us to experience, but you don't react to them as much. You kind of move through it a lot easier, because you're not going, you know, you're not slumping right down.
And instead of approaching it in a way of, oh no, why is this happening to me? Just think about, oh, what is this telling me? You know, what am I doing to you know, to be creating this situation, or or reacting to that situation in that way? Because maybe the situation itself is actually not that bad, but it's your reaction. Maybe it's just, you know, something that's inside of you that's triggering, right? That this situation triggers. And then I would also add, what works for me is usually when we are in a bad mood, it's generally something that happened in the past, even if it's just 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, or it's something that hasn't happened yet, right? So we're either anxious about things, or we're mulling over what has happened. And, you know, even if in that particular moment that you're thinking about it, you're maybe just sitting in your chair, I don't know, in the living room. So just bring yourself back to where you actually are, and, you know, appreciating the little things, like the comfort of the chair maybe that you're sitting in, or the fact that you even have a house or a flat or whatever place to live, you know, whatever the situation is. Just be right. So finding the little things to be grateful for, or just to appreciate them. I guess sometimes maybe people don't like the term being grateful for something, but you can appreciate things, right? So yeah, that's one of the things that works for me, because I sometimes, obviously, the news catch me, right? But I'm also interested in some of them. Like, I want to, sometimes I give myself a little bit of time to just have a little, you know, headline flick or something, or listen to something that's interesting, and if it makes me feel some kind of way, but I feel informed, and I'm like, and I think, okay, that's okay that I'm informed now, but this feeling, this icky feeling that I have, I need to kind of clear it up. And then I just, usually right now, it's my son, right, who lifts me up, because he's just so cute, right? It's just simple things like that. And then we could, you know, giggle and play together, and whatever, read a book, and I'm just feeling so much better, because I come back to myself. I'm not in my mind, I'm not looking in my thoughts for that information that maybe I just read or heard.
And it's the mind that creates the suffering. Suffering doesn't exist anywhere other than in the mind. It's only ever a perception of what's happening. You know, you can accept and be peaceful about everything, even if you You wouldn't choose it necessarily consciously. It's what the mind tells you about things that creates the suffering, because it's trying to either tell you you're a victim, which nobody is a victim of anything, because we've all chosen to come here and we've chosen all the things we're experiencing. The ego doesn't like that, because it says, well, I wouldn't choose this, but your soul did. But it's the thoughts that we create about things. And it's all right knowing this. It's remembering it in the moment when it starts happening, because you can sit here and think, I know it's my mind that creates the suffering, but then it happens and you're not aware of it initially. And then you catch yourself, I'm catastrophizing, or I'm worrying. This is all future based. What if this happens? What if that happens? I'm remembering something bad that happened 15 years ago. Why? If I've cleared the energy of that, and I've spent a long time working through old stuff that I may not have healed from in the moment. I don't need to go back there. I'm just re-energizing something that's already happened. I don't need to do that. My mind keeps taking me back to somewhere. So I have to train my mind to stop doing it.
So I think we can end there, and I hope that people will find this helpful as they go through this intense month and an intense year. And I think a lot of intensity will be continuing to happen for a little while, because we're going through this huge shift with Pluto, because that's generational shift, right, for the next 20 years, where when people are rising up, and that means for people to rise up, they have to feel empowered, right? And we won't feel empowered unless something sometimes bangs us over our head and wakes us up a little bit, right? So all of those things always come from experiences that are very challenging. But I believe in us, and I know we can do it, and I can see the confirmation that it is happening. So let's just cultivate that sort of state of being. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening, and we hope that it helped you in some way. If you have any questions, then please let us know in the comments, and we'll be happy to cover them in any of the other episodes that we'll be recording. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Mel?
No, just excited for the next episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Now we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.